Jai Shriman Narayan. Jai Shriman Narayan. Jai Shriman Narayan. I pay my obeisances to my spiritual master, Srimad Jagadguru Sudarshan Acharya Ji Maharaj. I pay my obeisances to Lord Sri Ramanuj. I pay my obeisances to our Purva Acharyas. I pay my obeisances to our 12 Alvars. I pay my obeisances to Mother Lakshmi. And I pay my obeisances to Lord Sriman Narayan. I welcome all of you here physically at the Sri Narayan Dham in Durban, South Africa. I welcome those that's watching this discourse locally, nationally, and internationally. And I welcome in advance those that's going to be watching this discourse when it is posted on YouTube and the various groups from around the world subsequently. A special welcome to our honored guest, Mrs. Singh, Miss Singh, Miss Singh. I think she's an author, and I will allow her to give a background about herself. I do that with all the guests. I do not do a background check. I do not with all the guests unless I know them. So I'd like to keep it genuine and fresh. I request all of us to observe a moment of silence. Thank you. My younger brother left his mortal coil this morning at 5 a.m. and I just want to pay my respects to him. I want to remember our childhood, for our society has become thus that you can only remember your siblings in the childhood. When they become adult, then majority of them after marriage will live a life estranged from the family, or else we can be accused of interference. So I want to remember my brother. I think we were 5 or 6 years apart. We used to live in town, Durban, Warwick Avenue. And when he was 3, I think we are 3 years apart. When he was 3, then he used to steal fresh milk from the fridge. And then my mother said she's going to punish him. So she bought a liter of milk and told him, drink this milk. He drank it. He wanted more. And later, he would take food that was for supper. He used to love tin fish. So if he knew my mother cooked tin fish, then you'll see a portion stolen from the pot. So she cooked a pot of tin fish and she said, eat. My mother was, and he enjoyed it and he asked for more. Then we were in Methodist Primary, there in Warwick Avenue. I was in standard 1, he was in class 1, yes. So I think we were 3 years difference, 2-3 year difference. We used to play at the swings. There was a park in front of my school, and we used to play in the swings. So we used to go to school early to play in the swings. And then a boy from my class, I remember his name, Peter, very strong, one of the gangsters. Last I found out he was imprisoned for 90 years, committed a murder in Morningside. So Peter forced my brother from the swings, and next I see Peter running for his life, my brother chasing him with half a brick, round and round busy Warwick Avenue early in the morning. And this trend continued. We subsequently had to move from Durban. They built a Technicon from town. They built not Emal Sultan, the white Technicon during the apartheid time, and we were given a house in Unit 6 in Chatsworth. So he continued in Chatsworth, loved me to bits. He felt he was my protector. Nobody could look at me long enough, but he was responsible to send me to Reservoir Hills. My mom's sister used to live in Merton Gardens. I used to come out first in school, and he used to tear up all my book prizes, all my reports. And my mom said, "Why you don't go and live with my sister?" So I came to Reservoir Hills. He continued, and then after matric I had to go back to Chatsworth. He left school, and he would sort out my petrol to go to university. He used to be a newspaper boy. They used to pick him up at about 1 in the morning, and he used to deliver newspaper in Queensborough. And he told me one day the load was so heavy that his brakes didn't work. So he landed, his front of the bike hit a fence, and he catapulted over into a white man's yard. And he said he saw a huge Rottweiler. The Rottweiler's face was next to his face. And he said, I gave the Rottweiler such a punch, he cried for 1 hour. His owner couldn't even restrain him from crying. He said, I punched him square on his face. This is my brother. And then after university, I joined the police force, and every week I would get a call. He's locked up, something he did. And I would get him out of trouble. And once he called me, and he told me, that gun that you have, I have an identical gun. You want to pick it up for spares? And I said, where you got that gun? He said, no, I was walking up the road with a beer in my hand, and a police car whipped me. So I took the beer bottle and bust the windscreen of the car. He said they stopped the car and they chased me into the gum trees. Those of you remember Unit 6? Remember the gum trees? He said I hid behind a tree. I caught both of them. I gave them a terrible hiding. Only one had a gun. Now I have that gun in my possession if you want it for space. So I had to phone Chatsworth police and go and hand that gun in. And I think Mataji will remember. We were owning taxis. We were taxi owners after I left, minibus taxis after I left the police force. And he used to work with me in the taxis, again protecting, making sure nothing would go wrong. We were working in Warwick Avenue, point taxi rank, so it would be majority blacks. And he was shining. He used to sit quietly in a taxi, just keep the taxi clean. He was shone the back glass. So one of the conductors from the back taxi came and banged the taxi where he had shone and messed it up. So he gave that guy a smack, black guy. When we went down to Warwick Avenue, that guy came with 30 other conductors, and they opened all the boots, back boot of the taxis. They took out jack handles, irons, and they chased Manoj. Manoj ran up the hill, up Alice Street. I saw him running, and then I saw him make a U-turn. Mataji was seated in the taxi as well. Then he ran into these 30 people. One of them dropped the iron. He picked up the iron, and we never saw those conductors for the rest of that day. Then if somebody wanted to have him a fair fight, he would refuse, because he said one person is not enough. Can you please bring about 3 or 4 or 5 people? Any race, one person was never enough for him. And today I phoned Jessica and asked Jessica, please tell Jakes, one of our friends, Jake Singh, from Unit 6. So they began calling him not Manoj but Maddox. He was a one-man gangster. And I remember that pub, if he walked into the pub, everyone would buy him a drink fast. Not because they loved him, because they feared him. If you get him drunk very soon, then somebody will put him in the car and take him home. So when he walked in the pub, he just sat there, and everybody, one drink for Maddox, one drink for Maddox, one drink for Maddox, because he closed the pub so many times. So in Unit 6, he walked alone. He was not a gangster. He was also a footballer. I remember in school, he was a sportsman. I was in Standard 1. He was in Class 1. He would win the Victor Ladorium. So he'd win the big trophy, and then, as I said, we moved to Chatsworth. We should travel in a bus to school. So I used to make him carry the small presents, and I used to carry the big trophy, so people can see that I was carrying the trophy. This was my brother. We lived in Reservoir Hills. He came and lived with us. He spent that time up until the time he attained his wife. We had a really wonderful time. He was the Singh on the other side. I said, please excuse me, but I said, if you see a handsome Indian involved in a fight, you don't have to guess his surname. Right? Our previous guest was very happy. He's an author as well. He has a Singh and Maharaj, Amman Singh Maharaj surname. All right. So I want to celebrate my brother's life. When I got the message, I only got the message at 11, so you can see how far. I'm the eldest in the family, but you can see how far you get in this Kal Yug, in this world now when we're living, when people get married, and how far we become. Also, I became a guru. He's never visited one satsang, neither has he visited this premises, because this is not a family affair. When you're a guru, then you absolve your life from family, and it is disciples from a past life that come and become your family. So It's within our teachings. I'm saying this with a heavy heart. I love my brother. I cried in my room. I thought I might not make it through this service. I asked God to give me strength so that we can conclude immediately after. I'm going to rush to his house. I last saw him, I think, a few months ago when his daughter sent a message on Facebook during our water restrictions, and she said, "Please, can anybody give us 1 liter of water?" And my heart melted. We jumped in the car and I went and saw my brother. His face was only normal, his body had shrunk. He was having liver and pancreas problems. Again, it would have been within my domain to have repaired him, but that consensus come as a devotee, and I didn't want to get involved in the family that he had structured, that he had created. He got 5 daughters. They are big, I think, from 22, 23 going downwards. And although I'm a guru, I still have to live within my parameters. I couldn't go and push myself, although he was sick and I knew I had capacity. Is because I also had to, for them to retain the status quo. But had his wife and his children decided and brought them to ashram, then we could have had a different results. But I'm not, no blame, I'm just saying. I couldn't impel. One would wonder that there's so many miracles that happen at this ashram. How I allowed my brother to slip through the system. Again, this system is full of disciplines. Family or no family, protocols have to be observed to be beneficiaries on this spiritual side. I also lost my sister, and it is said that parents shouldn't see their children pass on. Also, the eldest in the family shouldn't see his siblings pass on. The pain is the same. I lost my loving sister many years ago. She was involved in a car crash. I had to go to Joburg and identify her body, her face. It was beyond recognition. I got a shock when the mortuary opened that container where her body was. So, also, notwithstanding the fact that I'm a guru, we have some attachment to those that we grew up with. It's only natural. Coming back, this would give me an opportunity to discuss the soul, which I started last week, and I think the Brahma Kumaris were here on Sunday. Last week Sunday, we discussed the causal body, and I said that the causal body is the first and the most subtle set of 5 bodies that envelop the soul. So it was a still day today. I felt my brother enter the ashram. I went outside. I took Mataji's brand new broom and I started sweeping because I didn't want to be cooped in my room. And I called her and I showed her the force. There was wind only here in the ashram, but it's not wind, it's the consciousness that was pervading. And I showed her, I said, see, all the other trees are still. My brother came finally to say his goodbye. So all these are in the Vedas, these are Vedic injunctions. His soul would be in a swoon right now after leaving the body. Only whilst you in a particular body, whether a tree, a snail, you are restricted to that body, but in the interim between bodies, your consciousness can reach any part of the universe. Consciousness is energy, and that energy is contracted as per our karma right now, all of us. In a human body, it ends here, it ends at the very on your skin, but when your soul leaves, then it lives with all the seed elements. So the causal body, the very first body, carries your soul to your next body. So my brother would have seen his next body before his soul left his body. It's a Vedic injunction. Whether he liked it or not, we will know when we see his face. You would see many people leave. When you see them in the casket, you see they have a smile on their face. And the reason they have a smile on their face is they have seen the next body. They are happy with the next body. And you would have seen other people with a contorted face, with a grimace. Those would be souls who are not happy of the next body. So in this universe we find everything is made out of 24 elements. Everything is made up, I'll describe in a further satsang the 24 elements, but everything is made out of 24 elements, and when you lodge the soul in the 24 elements, these elements get activated and start formulating bodies. So all the senses, all the pranic energy, everything is within the body, and the pranic energy leaves last. The pranic energy leaves last, but it still follows the soul in its seed form to the next body. It's part of the 24 elements, and the pranic energy is broken into 5 elements, but we look at it as one. So when a body, when he will be shaven tomorrow before his funeral, then you would see that his nails grew and his hair grew. All this is because of the pranic energy that was still in the body that left later. And that is why there's energy to continue, the nails continue to grow. And then we will look at Lord Sri Ramanuj, and his nails are still growing after 1006 years. His hair is still growing after 1006 years. It means his pranic energy never left his body. You understand? Because his soul went to Vaikuntha and he left his pranic energy in his body. So everything that happens in Sanatana Dharma is scientific. Everything that happens in Sanatana Dharma is scientific, because Sanatana Dharma is not a religion. Sanatana Dharma is not a religion. What is religion? What is the definition of religion? Amita? Sita, no Wi-Fi? Quickly, let's fix this thing today. Religion and Sanatana Dharma. Can God have a religion? God cannot be?
So religion is a noun, the belief in and worship of a superhuman power or powers, especially a god or gods. And also ideas about the relationship between science and religion.
Okay. You understanding? So religion is a vehicle that can take you to the Supreme Lord. Religion is a vehicle that can take you to the Supreme Lord. Now when you jump in a vehicle, There are rules and regulation in every vehicle. And if you conform to the rules and regulation of that vehicle, then that vehicle can take you to the Supreme Lord. You need to start the vehicle, you need to wait for the engine to get warm, you need to put your handbrakes down, you need to put that vehicle in motion. All these are rules and regulations. Okay? So the more primitive, the more closer we get to creation, those vehicles will be more primitive. Yes or no? So initially, if you had to go to God, the first mode of transport would be a donkey, a cow, an animal. Then after animal, you'll get another mode of transport. Again, primitive transport would be crossing rivers, boats. Then you would have got more advanced until you have now your ship, your aeroplane, whatever vehicle there is. The vehicle is separate and God is separate. The vehicle simply takes you to your destination, and after you reach your destination, that vehicle becomes irrelevant. And this is why we say there is a difference between religion and spirituality. Religion is a vehicle that can take you to spirituality. Once you've reached a spiritual status, religion is no longer required. A better way of explaining this is a rocket. How many of y'all watched a rocket being launched? Dana? Only Dana. Okay, so you remember T10, T9, T8, T7, T6, and then you see the rocket launches. And as the rocket launches, it starts shedding off. It starts shedding off that which was attached to it, and ultimately is just a small part. Similarly, your soul is in this body, and when you are to liberate, then you'll shed this. First body will be this food body. This body is composed of food. If you do an analysis of this body that we call the gross body, it's made up of everything that you have eaten. First, from your mom's umbilical cord, you started eating from there, that started creating this body. And when you came out from suckling the breast milk, until you started eating your purity and soft foods. So a combination of all that food has created this gross body. You came into this gross body already with your pranic body, which is your fourth body, your mental body, which is your third body, your intellectual body, which is the fourth body, and your causal body, which is the fifth body. So when you are ready for liberation, that is the purpose of my satsang. That is, my satsang will always be small. It's the apex of satsangs. I am preparing you for liberation. Very few people that come to my satsang want liberation. They want the posh, they want the chicken, they want the meat. That is anti-liberation. That is in opposition to liberation. I am teaching you how to make sure this is your last body. So like the rocket that has to shed off about 3 or 4 bodies, and only that one part of the rocket enters space. Similarly, for one to achieve liberation, you have to let go of your gross body, you have to let go of your pranic body, you have to let go of your mental body, you have to let go of your intellect body, and you have to let go of your causal body. Because Vaikunt is very, very subtle. It's very subtle, only your soul can enter. All these other gross bodies cannot enter. You must imagine a sieve of different sizes. You know, you get sieves and you get different sizes. Each body will get stuck in one of the sieves, which is in this material atmosphere, up until the time only the soul will be able to fit in the last hole, live in this material atmosphere. So this is Sanatana Dharma. There is no such thing as Hinduism. Please do not ever use that word or allow people to use that word, Hinduism. It does not exist anywhere, and this is why there is so much of confusion. Hindu is a geographical location, and you put a ism there, it can't become a religion. Alright? So Sanatana Dharma is in two parts. One is the practical ritualistic part, and the other part is the philosophical scientific part, abstract science. The first part of the Vedas teaches you the practical side. Like today I walked in wood arti. I paid my obeisances outside. It is required. It is ethics, it is morality, it is righteousness. When you want to pay your obeisances, then you start at a certain point, and you would have listened, I pay my obeisance to my Guru first. It is a Vedic injunction. Only Guru can give you spiritual knowledge. Only Guru can give you spiritual knowledge. So I start paying my obeisances from my Guru. Then I pay my obeisances to our first Guru, our Adi Guru, Lord Sri Ramanuj. Then I pay my obeisances to all the Purva Acharyas that existed, that passed on this information that I'm passing on to you. Then I pay my obeisances to our 12 alvars that you see outside the ashram. All the information that they passed on. And then I pay my obeisances to Mother Lakshmi, because Lord Sriman Narayan gave Mother Lakshmi the Vedic injunctions first. And then I pay my obeisances to Lord Sriman Narayan. So whoever gave me knowledge spiritually, I pay my obeisance in a line. And this is when I open up as a computer. And this is how the knowledge flows from the system, starting from Lord Sriman Narayan to my Guru, into me and out to you. So I'm a receiver of this information. This information is flowing, and it's not difficult to understand. If I taught you this 50 years ago, it would have been very, very difficult for you to understand how information can flow. But now you have a cell phone. If I send an SMS from Hemita's phone to Jessica's phone, and they are 2 meters apart, only 2 meters apart, that information won't go directly from Hemita's phone to Jessica's phone. It has to go to a tower, get recognized digitally in the tower, and then come to Jessica and get recognized in a phone and give its identity as it was transmitted here. So similarly, there are spiritual towers. And when I sit in satsang, when I am invoked, I pick up. If material science can pick up energy, so information via energy, everything is energy. That what you see written on your phone is energy. There's nothing that is not energy. Then how many times more efficient will spiritual science be in having a tower and sending a bona fide Guru information? All of you understand? So whatever information is here, a bona fide Guru do not need to learn the Vedas anyway. All he has to do is self-realize, because information, this information that I have is equally embedded in every soul, because a soul is made up of two things: knowledge and bliss. Knowledge and bliss. This same knowledge that I have, I am teaching you. And I'm teaching you in the same manner as if you walk in a thorn field. If you walk in a thorn field, how would you dislodge the thorn that entered your heel without any other instrument? You'll find another thorn and you'll prick the thorn out that is lodged into your heel. Similarly, I'm using this knowledge which is embedded in you already eternally. This knowledge is embedded in every soul eternally, and the bliss is also embedded in you eternally. It's just that you forgot. Rita, you just forgot. So what a guru does, imagine I'm a doctor and somebody comes suffering with amnesia. What does amnesia mean? Rita forgot who she is. So she's walking around and somebody brings her to my surgery. Then I show her photograph. I show her photograph, I play music that she was supposed to know, I show her photographs that she's supposed to know. That is why I have huge photographs here. Her father is Lord Sriman Narayan. All our fathers is Lord Sriman Narayan. We sing invocation on Lord Sriman Narayan so that I can take all of you out of your amnesia, because now Rita believes she is the body. She took about half an hour to do her makeup, or half an hour is nothing. I think half an hour only on her lips. Maybe 1.5 hours. Alright? And Tony, okay, she's old school. Alright? But she's still in amnesia. Old school, but still in amnesia. When you see Rita walking into this satsang, like our Brahma Kumaris last week, white sari, eyelashes missing, looking drab and quiet. Rita was here by mistake. She thought satsang is at 10:30. Alright? From 10:30 until 2, she was very busy. Mouth did not stop. I could hear Rita at this end. I went down, I heard Rita. I went there, I heard Rita. Then Rita heard my brother passed on. Then I thought she might go a little bit quiet. In fact, she went even higher. Alright? So we all knew Rita is... Yeah, she kept me awake. That is true. Yes, thank you, Rita. One good thing you did in your amnesia. But... yes, she actually saw me sweeping outside with a new broom as well. And you know the saying, Rita, new broom? Okay. So, Guru's job is to remove you from this amnesia. This is why we play bhajans, because you heard bhajans. You heard it in many lifetimes. You was with the Lord. The Lord was with you. This is why we put big photographs everywhere. Guru has put Lord Narayan's photograph right round to kick you out of your amnesia, as a doctor would when he will show you photograph. As soon as Rita sees her handsome husband Tony's photograph, she'll kick out of amnesia and remember, hey, this is the man I tormented since marriage. That will kick her right out and back into action. You understand? So this is why we play bhajans, this is why we talk, This is why we give discourses, so you can forget that you are the body and retain and make an attempt to start your inward journey. When you go to temples, when you go to all these places, and when you study the first half of the Vedas, the Karma Kanda of the Vedas, then you live a life, a righteous life in society. It is outward. Society is outward. Then you come to the spiritual aspect of the Vedas, where I am involved. Then I use all that you have gained in all your lifetimes, and now I start turning you inwards. So to go to your soul, you need to pass through your mind, need to be arrested, your senses need to come into control. Right now, the senses are controlling the mind. When you come to satsang, my job is to technically stop the senses from working and let the mind take control of the senses. And whilst I'm talking about the mind taking control of the senses, that new broom, I want to talk to all my Havan people, all my people who do Havan in this ashram. That new broom found a lot of stompies under the maki. That new broom found a lot of stompies. White filters, more 90% white filters. So now that Shravan is not here, I can say this freely. You all were getting away with Shravan being here. I couldn't pinpoint. So I'm saying, please, I used to smoke 100 cigarettes per day. 1 carton every 2 days. I started with my Guruji's ashram in Westville. I used to go smoke down the road. That satsang was 3 hours. We had a break in 1.5 hours. In that 1.5 hours, I used to go down that road where nobody can see me and smoke 3 cigarettes in a row. How many? And put the stompy in my pocket. Put the stompy where? In my pocket. So please be disciplined. Put the stompy in your pocket. If you don't want to put it in your pocket, tear it up into pieces and swallow it. Tear it up into small pieces and swallow it. Please do not leave it on this ashram property. It is not the Guru's job to sweep your cigarette butts. Okay? So this is where the senses and the mind coming. After I was quite militant with what I said just now, because the mind need militancy. If you talk to the mind with love, I'll find more stompies next week there. So I'm being militant. So the mind must stop the senses. Your sense gratification for smoking. As you walking out now, the smokers, I don't want to call you smokers, my Purohits doing Havan, that is Havan outside. Now find where you do your Havan, take your Havan, the balance of your Havan samagri and go home. Go home. Alright? You can stop that desire now, today, that desire, because that is controlling your mind. You sit inside here for 1 hour, you hear righteous conduct, then you go outside and the mind is dictating to the addiction of smoking. So what you do, the desire of addiction is dictating to the mind. Now what you do, change it around. The mind need to tell the desire, you know what, I sat in satsang today Guru is not mentioning my name, but he knows I am or we are the culprit. One culprit is absent today. One culprit is absent but is watching live. This is the beauty of live transmissions. Alright? So this is the job of the Guru, to let your mind be the mind. Let the desires be the desires, so that the mind can direct your thinking to the intellect. The intellect can make your decision. Hey, if I continue smoking and throwing butts here, it is not a good thing. It is not a righteous thing. Now your intellect is dictating to the mind and making a decision. Then the intellect will send you to your causal body, and the causal body will allow you self-realization. And self-realization means I must now start living as the soul. I know I have 5 bodies. I know I have 5 bodies, but I must now start living as the soul. And when you come to that point, then vices and addictions will leave you, because the soul has no addiction and the soul has no vice. The composition of the soul is consciousness, knowledge and bliss, and all souls are identical. My soul is the same, your soul is the same, the snake's soul is the same, the tree's soul is the same. The cockroaches, Rita, that you kill daily in your kitchen would doom. Same soul.
Cockroaches are in your kitchen as well.
Yeah, we don't kill them. We just say Om Namo Narayan and they run away.
Spray it and devastate to go in food.
Okay? With this background,
There's one question, I'm not sure if you did now or tomorrow.
what's the question?
It's from Lishan. So he said, since all religions converge in one God, Narayana, is moksha provided for all paths, or is it only expected if one meets Sanatana Dharma?
Yeah, you have to come back to Sanatana Dharma.
Okay, that answers the question.
Okay, that's my devotee from Italy, and he transcribes all these discourses into Italian and he reposts it in Italy. Yes. So we are 155 trillion years have elapsed since this creation. We have another 155 trillion, 40 billion years more to wind up this creation. There's enough time. Now, as Sanatana Dharma is not a religion, it is a science, you can only attain moksha scientifically and not religiously. You can only attain moksha scientifically and not religiously, and this is why I explained the 5 sifs, that your soul have to leave each sif until it reaches the sif where only the soul can pass through but not the causal body. So the causal body will be stuck, and the causal body is the seed of all your senses. It is the seed of the 3 modes of nature, Satagun, Rajagun and Tamogun, and the causal body is the seat of your karma. So you can't take your karma and get liberated. You have to leave your karma behind, and there's always residual karma that is attached. This is why you leave your last body. Imagine a surf, and imagine you going up that surf. That causal body will get trapped, and only the soul will enter. And remember, the soul is one. The size of the soul is 1/10,000th the size of your tip of your hair, and that is how subtle that spiritual atmosphere is. So yes, you have to go to a scientific process to reach moksha, because moksha is not a religious undertaking. It is a spiritual and scientific undertaking. So everyone has to go through that process. So I rejected that terminology, Hinduism. I said Sanatana Dharma is the absolute science, and the Supreme Lord have to be the absolute scientist. Have to be the absolute scientist, for he has created this scientific universe. Yes? Jai Sriman Narayan. Yeah, we introduce our guest. You can come through, ma'am. I tell this to all my speakers. Feel free to discuss. There's no time limits or time constraints. You can discuss at your leisure.
Can you hear me? Yes. Thank you. Jai Shriman Narayana. Thank you, Guruji, devotees, guests, for affording me this opportunity to speak to you today. Guruji, some of the things you spoke about is I'm probably going to be repeating. Okay. So I'm going to talk about my experience with oneness and what I perceive oneness to be. And I will start by giving you some insight on my experience that brought me to this point. And my name is Gayashree Sharon Singh, and I head the Institute of Metaphysical Science in South Africa. I have a holistic center called Soul Sutra Pty Limited, and I also head Educate Africa. And when I speak, you will hear a bit more about me. I'll start off by saying my family practices Sanatana Dharma. My late dad was a great influence in my life in many ways. Dad went to a Catholic school as a child, and as a young adult frequented church with his Christian friends. This was besides following the family's Sanatana Dharma way of life. Dad was a nonconformist. And he would always preach to me that there can only be one infinite divine energy that governs this universe. Call this energy what you may. Some call it God, Brahma. Some personalize it and give it different names. I was as little as 6 years old when I was introduced to the Divine Life Society and Ramakrishna philosophy. I grew up listening to scriptures and singing kirtans and bhajans in ashrams, Sunday service, and temples. And most times the bhajans and kirtans included names of spiritual deities and prophets of all religions. Incidentally, the first kirtan I learned to sing as a child was Shriman Narayana, Narayana, Narayana. And yes, so it's almost like coming back home. Yeah. I was just over 18 years old when I was married off. I had a very challenging time adjusting to the spiritual life in my in-laws' home. The matriarch of the family practiced Sanatan Dharma very differently to how I was raised. Is that okay? I was labeled a heathen by her because I refused to partake into certain ritual like doing Kali Puja, slaughtering and all of that. What made it worse was that I took on many jobs. See, I finished metric and got married. I hadn't had the opportunity to go to university. So I took on various jobs, and some were very menial jobs, so that I could raise myself, and get myself out of where I was married. So I come from rural Redcliffe, no lights, no water. And I was married even into a worse, if I can say, situation, more rural. So I also tried my hand at business and started a few businesses. All of this to fund my law degree that I was studying for. After the studies, I was grateful to have landed a position in a the corporate division of a legal firm, a 3-tier legal firm, so it was a fairly large legal firm. See, women in this family were meant to be seen and not heard. They were meant to be barefoot and pregnant, and I refused to do that. Of course, this was the beginning of the demise of my marriage. Being the non-conformist that I was, and I still am, I could not go with the flow, as my husband has suggested that I, do. I reached a point of completely withdrawing from every single prayer ceremony, rebelling and feeling that I was not being allowed to be who God intended for me to be in this world. So even at that age, I knew I had my own purpose. After the divorce, I went back on my spiritual path. I was 32, 33, around there. And this time, I did it my way. The hunger to evolve spiritually grew. Besides my experiences with various spiritual organizations within South Africa, and that includes the African Tribal, this journey took me to spiritual places around the world. Took many trips to various parts of India, to the Vatican, to churches in Europe, meeting shamans in South America, to spending time with the spiritual aboriginals in Australia, to the Maori people in New Zealand, to the Mayans in Mexico, to various Buddhists and Islamic countries. And let me just say one thing at this point. I hadn't put it here, but I want to say this. My experience with indigenous people, how they practice their way of life, and I'm going to call it way of life because they also work with elements and the universe and all of that. It's very, very much like Sanatan Dharma, and a lot of words they use. You will hear, we hear in Sanatan Dharma, words like Om Swaha, or maybe not Om, but Swaha. And the use of the peacock feathers and stuff like that. So that really took me aback. While traveling, I was learning and completing my studies in metaphysics. And you want to know what's metaphysics? Metaphysics is a spiritual aspect of spirituality. So it is that which is beyond physics. Quantum physics. So energy, Guruji spoke about energy. Theology and Rumi's Sufism. And Rumi Sufism talks about one, oneness. So, of course, I was labeled, confused. I was even accused of converting from Sanatan Dharma to various other religions, which is not true. My quest was learning. I was thirsty for Jnana Yoga, which is knowledge. I subsequently established the Institute of Metaphysical Science in South Africa and ran workshops and courses over weekend while practicing law on the weekdays. I also created a small building company to supplement my income because I had 2 children. I was a single mom, and my husband not only divorced, he divorced the children also, so I was left alone. And one would think that I was practicing law and I would go after him, but I didn't, because I had to conserve my energy for what I thought was greater things. I reached a stage in my life where I no longer could continue working in the legal firm because I changed. I became soft, heart-centered. I couldn't work. I couldn't be this dynamic lawyer suing people, and I was working for big corporate companies. And who I was suing? The ordinary man in the street, the small up-and-coming business people. That legal work was draining me and was soul-sapping. I resigned and went full-time into the building company and started spending more time running the Metaphysics Institute, which of course continues to run today. We hold workshops on mind shift, transformation, self-mastery, and we also teach people metaphysics, teachers, people who want to train as teachers, metaphysics. The building company literally grew overnight to the largest female-owned building company in South Africa, if not in Africa. So WBHO is GB9, I was GB8. And they were like a whole huge building construction company, and I was just one lady. We focused on building schools, hospitals, and clinics in places other contractors didn't want to go. Places that were perceived as dangerous, no lights, no water, no infrastructure. Places where people were really suffering. My success in this construction company was not expected by the role players in the industry. And this is where the challenges started. I was asked to buy into the corrupt nature of the industry, and I refused. Instead, I earned myself the title or label, the voice against corruption in the construction industry. This nearly cost me my life and that of my 2 daughters. I had to remove my children out of university and put them underground, hide them. I was attacked in my home numerous times, in my offices. My office building in La Lucia, 3-story building, was set alight. My trucks were petrol bombed. But I stood my ground. And the one thing I said to them when they came for me was that if you managed to kill me, know that you didn't kill me. That was my time to go. Because another human can't take my life. You'll only facilitate the process that is meant to happen. That was my stance. Of course, I was afraid for my children.
Your surname is?
Singh. So I must say something else. I was into metaphysics and I was very spiritual, not religious, spiritual. And through this whole process, I never found my feet touching the ground. It was like I was not touching that. It was like some energy was carrying me through. I was very calm. I mean, if I reflect on it, it was like, where did that come from? Okay, so like I said, I do believe that my spirituality and intensive knowledge of metaphysics carried me through this very challenging time. But eventually, I had to close my doors because my daughters' lives came to a halt. They needed to live, and they're not as tenacious as I am. I overprotected them when they were growing up. Anyhow, I closed that construction company, and 15 years ago, I found myself in a place called Abijania in rural Brazil. It is not uncommon to see horse-drawn carts and donkey-drawn carts on the dirt roads. That's how much backward, I would say, like it's like really going back in time in this place. So this place is built on a crystal crust and on a spiritual vortex. And I heard about it on Oprah. I'm a great manifester. So when I made that, that intention, I'm going to go here, 6 months later I was there. And this was a place where I saw oneness in action. See, I knew about oneness. I tried to practice it as much as I could in the confines of my social, where I come from. But this amplified. This was like, wow. So Brazilians are predominantly Catholics. This place was different. Yes, they practiced their Catholic religion, but at the same time embraced every other religion and spiritual practice. At the center, which I call the casa, which means home in Portuguese, people from all over the world of different backgrounds, different race, different language will come. I would be at the vicinity of the casa, and on one side I will hear people reciting or chanting the Hail Marys. On another end, there will be another group of people chanting the Buddhist chants, or the Gayatri mantra, or Om Namah Shivaya, or, various different mantras from different religions and way of life. Sunday service encompassed singing prayer, songs from all religions, spiritual beliefs, including Islam and Judaism. People came together in oneness. We were not controlled, neither were there any beliefs imposed on anybody. It is a place where I witnessed, experienced, felt, and smelt the scent of the infinite divine energy in motion. I experienced not only what was visible to the eye, but that which was not visible to the eye. A realization that no one, not I, not you, no one, walks this earthly plane alone. We are always accompanied by the divine force in its various forms. It is here that I received and accepted Holy Communion, although I'm not a baptized Christian. A Catholic priest who was visiting the casa from the USA while I was there, offered me Holy Communion, or offered the non-Christians Holy Communion, while explaining that the sharing or exchanging of, or the accepting of Holy Communion is the sharing and exchanging of thoughts and feelings on a mental or spiritual level. A coming together of people. At this point, let me say that a conventional church anywhere in the world will not allow a non-Christian to receive Holy Communion. I returned from Abidjan having learnt a lot more than I had already knew, and I opened up Soul Sutra Pty Limited, a holistic center where we work with healing at all levels, that is mind, body, and spirit. With the grace of the Almighty, I went on to establish Educate Africa to address South Africa's unemployment challenges through social entrepreneurship, which assists communities to empower themselves to be self-reliant. I also work with school children, teaching soft skills, and at the same time inspiring them and motivating them under this umbrella. So far, Educate Africa has been funded mostly by me. Where the money comes from, only Bhagwan knows. It comes. Since the legal days, my whole existence has been about empowering, teaching, and facilitating healing at every level. My way of giving back and practicing oneness. So, what is oneness, one may ask? And I'm sure Guruji has given many discourses on this, and I'm just going to talk about my experience. In theology, oneness specifically maintains that God is a singular spirit, not three persons, individuals, or minds. It is a singular spirit which is absolutely and indivisibly one. It means that there is no you, there is no me. There is only one, and all forms of life is part of this one. Imagine that you are the whole universe, and you live in total joy and bliss. Imagine there is no past and no future, only now. Imagine there is no space or time, only unbounded eternity. Imagine endless peace, harmony, and unconditional love. Imagine no fear, and imagine equality in all things and beings. It is a feeling of fullness, of vastness, and completion. It is an experience of embodying our true nature, experiencing the self that exists beyond personalities, which I refer to as the ego. So let me go on to say something else, that you don't have a soul. You are the soul. Drop the ego and be a soul. Souls only know love. Ego doesn't know love. If you look around you, with this knowing, you will be amazed to see that all beings are soul. Be a soul, see a soul. When we have this heart connection, then we all know that we, human beings all over the planet, are one. One love. This includes the bees, the birds, all animals, the trees, the clouds, and the galaxies. It's one energy. It's oneness. Here on Mother Earth, we perceive duality through our senses. Duality is the illusion that we are separated. But when we take a closer look, we come to see that the same life that is within me is within you, and this life connects all beings and things. Experiencing oneness is a feeling, a connection with everything in existence at every level. It is an experience that transcends the mind of boundaries or dividers. Your heart bursts open, and an awareness of the inherent goodness of all beings, irrespective of who they are and how they show up in this life. An ability to see beauty everywhere and in everything and in everyone emerges. Broken hearts are mended, and the body and the soul is healed. Oneness is your birthright. Deep down, you know this, I know this, we all know this. Something about it resonates deep within ourselves and our souls. Ego, indoctrination, and beliefs, and how we are socialized causes blockages in us from living this truth. One can experience spiritual oneness spontaneously, or after years of vigorous sadhana or practice. There is no consistent, objective pattern. Oneness seems alien to us because we perceive our inner and external worlds through the fragmented lens of our minds. The concept of inner and outer world in itself is a division created by the mind. Simply put, the reason we find it difficult to experience oneness is that our minds won't allow us to. Our minds not only assist us to plan, create, structure, and logically understand life, but also simultaneously fragments existence. When life is broken down to thoughts, concepts, ideas, and beliefs, we cannot directly experience oneness in everything. Instead, we perceive life through a broken lens. Unless we take out those broken lenses, we will continue to see ourselves as isolated, separate identities or entities, seeing life through black and white. The challenge is we have forgotten that we are wearing this broken lens. It has been drummed in our minds that we are our thoughts and limited mental identities. We are like the fish who have forgotten the concept of water. I tell you that we are so much more than our thoughts and mental stories. I mean, we all tell ourselves stories, including me sometimes. The nature of the mind is to seek understanding and safety, and that is a good thing. It's not a bad thing. We see some things as good and some things as bad. This helps us to survive, to understand that we must not step in front of oncoming traffic, or to not allow a child to play with fire. However, this causes us to perceive ourselves in that fragmented way. We grow up learning that some parts of us are good and while others are bad. In the process, feeling flawed, lacking, not good enough, incomplete, insecurity, anxiousness, loneliness, depressions steps in. Our true essence has been diluted. We can never fully embrace ourselves while we love some parts of ourselves and deny other parts. This is why spiritual integration is so important. When we integrate, we unite the different parts of ourselves that we have suppressed for years or decades. When we seek integration, we are seeking oneness within ourselves. This is about us, within ourselves. Know that oneness is your destiny. Oneness is an integral part of your journey as a spiritual seeker. And ultimately, in the words of the wise sage, Sri Nisargadatta Maharaj, you are that. That you are. In the metaphysics and spiritual world, the term enlightenment is thrown around a lot. In my perspective, oneness and enlightenment is the one and the same thing. The word enlightenment seems very deep and is more focused on the light aspect of existence, which in itself is one-sided. We are spiritual beings having a human experience. And the point of our existence as humans is about embracing our humanity and our divinity, not just focusing on the love and light aspect of spirituality, which bypasses anything too raw and real. The spiritual journey is not only about ascending, it's also about descending. We need to dive into the darkness of our minds and do some soul searching. Be comfortable with the blood, dirt, and grit of being human. To avoid our wild side is to avoid, deny, and disown an essential part of who we are. Our divine and messy humanity. Wherever possible, I avoid using the phrase enlightenment as it seems too lopsided for me personally. Reason being is that when I have I have an opinion about everything, about social issues, about politics, about corruption. I have an opinion. And I'm always told as a metaphysician or a spiritual person, I need to accept that everything in this universe is unfolding perfectly, irrespective of how challenging it is. And I don't buy that. My response will always be will always be that we need to take the light into the darkness. So if you see something is wrong or something that's not going right, like our country at the moment, you can't sit back and say everything is happening as it should be. You've got to action. If you don't action, my perspective, you are spiritually dead. That's just me, okay? And I don't know if Guruji resonates with what I'm saying. We cannot spiritually bypass destruction. We cannot spiritually bypass. You say, no, it's not for us. We are spiritual beings. We're not going to handle that. As for spiritual seeker, oneness was and will always be the motivating drive for me to continue on my journey. Oneness is the core of the spiritual awakening journey, very much like a mandala. Your spiritual journey will take you around the axis with the hope that one day, with divine grace, you will unite with the center of it, and the center being spiritual self-realization or oneness. There is no instant blissful for experiencing oneness. You are fortunate that you have Guruji here to guide you through the process. True commitment and sincerity are needed for this path. While being on my journey, I came across 10 tools, and I know there are more to achieve oneness. And I'm just going to quickly go through it because I've taken a lot of your time already. Meditation and practicing mindfulness and gatherings like this is the first. it gives us exposure to oneness deep within. Thoughts are transcended and we enter a field of pure consciousness. 2, spending alone time surrounded in nature. This is self-explanatory. Nature is not separate from us. We are nature, we are part of nature. 3, mind-altering plant medicine. Yes, you heard me right. Plant medicine such as ayahuasca, mushrooms, DMT, our famous Durban poison. It's just a few of a lot more. The plant medicine temporarily activates what we call the God mind, which gives us a glimpse of oneness. This is not to be used for recreative purposes, but under the guidance of a genuine spiritual mentor, guru, teacher, or shaman. And if you're wondering whether I tried it, all I can say, not yet. Number 4, in a work that focuses on integration, we must seek to reunite with the lost parts of ourselves and integrate those parts into who we are presently. Examples of integration-centered inner work include shadow work, inner child work, cord cutting, clinical hypnotherapy, family constellation, and other modalities that facilitates deep-seated emotional wounds. This is also the kind of work I have been facilitating for over 25 years. And some of these tools are given in my book, Pain to Power to Purpose, A Journey to Transformation. Number 5, community like this. Being part of a harmonious community, irrespective of race, creed, color, religion, and or languages, helps us to foster the principles of oneness. Barriers and limited beliefs begin to dissolve. 6, conscious actions. Be conscious of your thoughts, your actions, your choices, and how you respond or react to situations in your life. Being conscious of your actions affects your life and the people around you. This gives you a sense of belonging and a sense of something greater than just your ideas. Number 7, acknowledge your own oneness. Look into your eyes in the mirror and repeat Aham Brahmasmi, Aham Brahmasmi, which literally means I am the universe. This is the soul reflecting unto itself and reminding itself of its oneness. 8, see the oneness in everyone. See the oneness in everyone. The Bhagavad Gita says, if you see God, which is oneness, in everyone and everything, you could do no harm. Begin to recognize the world as a reflection of yourself. In Hinduism, the greeting Namaste is used. It means I recognize the divinity in you, which is also in me. In other words, we are the same oneness. It is not, if it's not comfortable for you to say it aloud, if you meet somebody, from a different culture or whatever, think it silently. Every time you meet somebody. Chanting Om. Om is a primordial sound. When we chant Om, it draws our awareness back to the dawn of creation and into oneness. 10. Love. Real self-love, compassion, and acceptance. Love is the most powerful unifying force in creation. When we are in love, we become one with the object of our love. Similarly, if we love all of creation, we become one with all of creation. The Sufi poet Rumi wrote, the lover asked his beloved, do you love yourself more than you love me? The beloved replied, I have died unto myself, but I live for thee. Ram Das, the spiritual guru or teacher from the USA who's now late, said, oneness is a source of love. Real love is one celebrating itself in true. In the Vedanta it says, the ignorant man, one who is engrossed in dualities, desires material things. The intelligent man, seeker on a path, desires enlightenment. But the wise man, knower of oneness, just loves and receives everything. The Yajur Veda tells us it is omnipotent, omniscient, and omnipresent. It is all powerful, all pervasive. It pervades, permeates, and penetrates all things and all hearts. I'll leave you with these words. Live life from love. Recognize that you are the universe. Be the oneness and follow your truth. When you live this way, miracles will start unfolding in your life effortlessly. Namaste. Thank you, Guruji.
Jai Sriman Narayan. I've stated this after every speaker that spoke, and I'm saying this again. In this month of the Ramanujans, we are unearthing gems every day. Had we been just doing normal satsangs on oneness and social cohesions, but amongst ourselves, we would be rowing a boat with holes in it. And this is why I went beyond, not only to teach oneness. Teaching oneness anyone can do, actuating oneness. And you can see that every speaker of every race, every culture, every religion is echoing the same sentiments. But we are echoing that sentiments from our own basis. We need to now tie up the basis. We need Miss Singh to link herself to the ashram, and the ashram to link itself to Miss Singh and the voluminous work that she has done already. We live in a material society. I am a transcendental spiritualist. My world is different from the world that we are living in. And we need organizations like yours so that although it is metaphysical, it is still in the material universe. And we need to use that ingredients to start the process of oneness. So it is important that we integrate our efforts at every level. And yes, ma'am, you asked a question. I do get into the trenches. So every guru has 6 dimensions he can vibrate in. And I've chosen the vibration of the trenches. So you'll find me everywhere. I want to exist right at the bottom so I can mix and mingle with my humanity. And this is why I am technically informal. So you can mix with me at any time. I am approachable. I cannot teach oneness and live in my kutir, and you need to come through 10 committee members before you meet me. So you can meet me on the phone, you can meet me on social media, It's only my beard that's white. I'm moving. All right? If you come to this ashram, I work every day. Very seldom you'll see me there. If you see me there, it means somebody needs my help. So I pretend as if I'm sleeping and I am working through the consciousness somewhere in the world, whoever called out to me. But I work 24/7. I'm hard, but you have to be hard to make that difference. And yes, we have a lot in common. Right towards the end, God made me become a director in a law firm. Remember, I was a policeman. I have a diploma in the police force. This law firm was in Smith Street. We had a black attorney, a white attorney, an Indian advocate, and I was an equal partner there. My job was to collate all the evidence, go out with my background. So if an accident took place at 3 o'clock on a certain street, then I would go with my cameras 3 o'clock at a certain street and photograph everything and bring it back and confuse the magistrate and make my client win. All right, CNA was downstairs, I was upstairs. A wealthy male or female came for a divorce. We have pro forma divorce papers in CNA for £2.50. I'll open a file. It was called opening file. We should buy 100 files, all different colors, and I'll charge 1,500 Rand to open a file that we paid 5 Rand for, or maybe 2 Rand. It's called opening file. All right, I'll do the initial interview because I'll want to interview you in a certain manner. You need to fit into my interview so that I could give the judge a result. My job was giving the result to the judge via the advocate or the attorney. So Mataji will tell you, when I started work the first day, we had a white receptionist. Also, it was a ploy. If you put a white receptionist, doesn't matter how dumb she is, our Indian client will say, hey, this is a top law firm. They got a wit sticky in the front. European, all right? Top law firm. And I should make her give my clients tea even greater. And then I worked my own business to upgrade, to get more clients. I would phone all my clients on a Sunday and ask them how you are, you depressed, don't worry, I'm handling your case. Because I knew they'll be in places where they will, after they put the phone off, they will say, this was my attorney, look, my attorney called me on a Sunday, or my law firm called me on a Sunday. So when we first went there was this blonde white with blue eyes playing, what's that game, Sarit? Solitaire. And when I left, even the last day Mataji was there, we couldn't see her face. The files were right up to the ceiling. All right? And I used to use my son's car, Sean's car. He bought a Golf, a faded Golf. And I had 20 suits. So I should sit in a suit and a tie, but go to work in a faded Golf. Now, that is not business practice coming from a law firm. So I just met my guru. Conceptually. Remember, I met him 1 year after he left his mortal coil. So I went to that ashram and people told me, ask this guru for anything, you'll get it. So we went there, not even in a satsang. We went there on a Friday. And I said, Guruji, it is so embarrassing. I come from a top law firm. I'm driving around in my son's faded Golf. Monday, we get a client, comes to the office. He says, boss, I got a brand new Optra Chev. I can't afford to pay for my Chev and a bond together. I don't trust anyone else. leave me home and take this car. Pay my monthly installments. Friday, Monday. You understand? So we come from a similar background. We want to do what is right, and doing right is unstoppable. No matter how many obstacles come our way, we want to do what is right. Oneness can be achieved in your material life with all the tools that's there, but Lord Shri Krishna has spoken. Lord Shri Krishna has spoken. Every entity has to abide by injunctions and constitutions. So when we come to oneness, the first book is the Bhagavad Gita. It was spoken in 45 minutes at the battlefield, and Lord Shri Krishna states, and this is, every process is right, every process is right, but if you want to reach 100-story building and you are given an opportunity to go through the stairway, and if you want to be given the opportunity to use the lift, you'll reach your destination in both the manner, but the lift is going to be God's spoken word. How God wants you to reach Him. That would be the lift. And at the moment in Kali Yuga, the way to reach God is through the 700 verses of the Bhagavad Gita, spoken in 45 minutes. At the end he tells Arjuna, you can take my advice. He gives you all the ways you can reach Him, but he does not force Arjuna to take his advice. He says, after hearing everything that I have stated, you may now follow my advice or not. And similarly with the Guru, if you want to quickly reach God, Bhakti Yoga as expounded by the Supreme Lord in the Bhagavad Gita. That is the lift. In this lifetime, as you are seated here today, you can follow the Guru 100% and you can reach God through the lift. Or there are various processes. You can take your processes. God has time, and as she also stated, that time measured through material nature is linear. So you get a birth date, you get a death date, you get a birth date, you get a death date, and it will continue in its linear motion until the universe is wrapped up. Or oneness is eternal, which means it's not dictated by time. Time have no dictate on oneness, which is also true. And this has been confirmed through the Vedas, that this entire creation of 3.1140 billion years, one cycle, is under a millisecond for the Supreme Lord. You understand? Because time is cyclic. It is not linear. Then, and lastly, oneness have to be experienced. And she went to Australia, South America, and she experienced it. And this is what we do during our month of the Ramanujans. Every day we experienced the power of the other. Oneness is opening up and accepting the power of the other, not being superior to the other, but accepting the power of the other. And we've experienced that here in the ashram. We've had every satsang was powerful, Khatija, and I'm sure you felt it at home. When you listen to these speakers, including Ms. Singh today. There's a message for everyone. Again, Sanatan Dharma is spread across the length and breadth of this planet Earth, although in the universe, I'm just responding that wherever you went, in whichever way these indigenous people were worshipping, their source is Sanatan Dharma. We've experienced it here. We found the San nation has now requested the ashram to revive, and they've been lost for thousands, over 20,000 years, and the ashram is reviving their identity again. In our revival, we found that their prime deity is Lord Sriman Narayan, and they are descendants of Hanuman Baba. The Shlati Kulu means Hanuman in the sand. So we really are involved in oneness. God has thrown a lot of projects on my lap. On the 25th, I'll be flying quickly to Joburg, Truth and Reconciliation. I've started that assignment where the San people need to get equal recognition now in South Africa, as everyone is getting their recognition. So we work in both at the legal, societal, and spiritual, and we're doing our best. And I'm sure maybe I'm going to connect you to the prince, only surviving prince of the San Nation, and maybe through what you do, you can assist on another level, in another dimension. So I'm networking. We don't own our projects because no one is superior. So I connect everyone with everyone. It doesn't matter who gets the recognition. That doesn't matter from my perspective. Whoever does whatever you do, you're doing because of the Supreme Lord. I'm simply insignificant in all of this that's happening. I am basically absolutely nothing. It's just that I have to action myself, because the Supreme Lord is not going to come down and do anything for you and I. He has left us here on this earth, and He wants us as instruments to make sure that we do what we promised Him in our mission. So this is why we are once again very honored to have you. Our ladies have been expecting you from a long time. Your point of contact, Vishwadhar, every day he tells us you come in, and we've been waiting for you from a long time. Besides your day today, yeah. So we.
Sorry, just that was the intention, but my ex-husband's niece, who is also my niece, she's got throat and tongue cancer. They didn't have the means and the resources to be running around to a hospital and taking care of her. So that's what I ended up doing. And this Tuesday she went into ICU as in a coma. So even I'm sitting here, and the possibility is that she's passed on. So that was, as much as I got divorced, but the family, they still look on to me for whatever support, and this, I was the one who managed to raise myself out of that. So that's
Okay.
what happened, and I do.
No. I said it with love.
Yes, no, I do.
So I'm
I
sure
do, yes,
they're going to attack you when after satsang, but not for not coming, but they missed you every day that we thought.
But I have been following you on
Yes,
Facebook,
yes.
and you would have noticed that I've been.
Yeah, I think
I've been
Vishwadhar
sitting
told
in-
us. Yeah.
I've been sitting in hospital while this child is inside there, and I'm going through my Facebook on the phone and listening.
No, thank you.
And all of that.
Thank you. I just hope all of you every guest we link and we form a team, retaining our identities in what we do, but sitting in a vehicle and transforming the world into oneness. I don't, this fight between Pakistan and India, I'm tired of. Between Israel and Palestine, I'm tired of. You know, so Rafiq Bhai was here yesterday. I've joined his international multi-faith. And I just want to round up next year. I just want to finish the ashram, but I will also be flying out to these people. We only need to talk to one or two people to change this whole system. So we're proving it here at the ashram. Rafiq Bhai was here. I think there'll be an archbishop here before we close. Then we get in Bruce. So it's working. If it's working here in South Africa, it can work anywhere in the world. Jai Shriman Narayan.